My grandfather James has been a fisherman all his life. He is currently 89 years old, and despite his age, he is still so healthy and strong that every morning he goes fishing in his old boat called the St. Mary. My grandfather has seen many things in the sea, things that swim in the deepest of waters, and things that float adrift waiting to be found. What I am telling you today is the best-known story my grandfather has told us. So well known, in fact, that people from other places have come to hear it. I would like him to tell it to you, but it is difficult. So I feel free to be the one to tell it to you. I am sure that what my grandfather saw is completely real, because he is not a person who lies or makes things up to get the attention of others. Around 1970, when my grandfather James was about 30 years old, he was a fisherman. Every morning he would go out in his fishing boat to the deep sea to catch fish that he would later sell on the harbor beach. My grandfather at that time used to go out alone. Occasionally one of his sons would accompany him, but that was very rare. One Thursday morning, he remembers very well that he left the port in his fishing boat to work, as was his custom. He says that on that particular day it was cloudy and windy. The sky was threatening a strong storm. Knowing that he had to catch something in order to earn money, he went as far out into the ocean as he could to see if he had any luck, because he had not caught anything. The waves were intense, and the impact on the hull of the boat was very strong. The sky looked black, and in the distance it was already raining. Luckily, he managed to catch some fish, and that was enough for him. Just as he started his fishing boat, he says that in the distance he saw a log of wood floating in the middle of the open sea. At that moment he thought it was garbage which the sea brings in from the coasts. But he stopped believing that when he saw someone rising from that piece of wood and thought it might be a lost person. He steered his boat in that direction, and as he got closer, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. On that piece of log of considerable size there was a woman, but it was not just any woman. It was very different, because that person, if you can call her that, had a big fishtail on the bottom of her body. That thing was like what is usually told in those legends of fishermen. My grandfather had heard several legends about these women who were very rarely seen at sea, but he never thought all that was true, let alone imagined them that way. He says that the woman was not pretty at all. On the contrary, she was very ugly. Her skin was grayish to greenish. The fingers of her hands were bound together with frog-like membranes. Her hair looked like rotting seaweed and emitted a very unpleasant odor. But her face was something much worse. She had eyes, a mouth, and a nose, but no ears. In her mouth she had 2 fangs that stuck out a lot, and her nose was a pair of holes in her head. My grandfather knows she was a female because of her long hair and her pair of breasts. That thing was horrible. The mermaid stared at my grandfather, who at that moment did not know whether to try to catch her or run away. He touched her from afar with an oar he had at that moment, to which the mermaid did not react in a positive or negative way, because she looked tired, sad, as if she was hurt. My grandfather tried to communicate with her, but the mermaid did not seem to understand the least. She just looked at him with sad eyes. Seeing that no matter how hard he tried to help her, there was no way to do so, and seeing that the storm was near, he turned on his boat and decided to leave, but not before telling her, "Take care of yourself, creature of God." My grandfather says that she understood that, because the mermaid nodded her head and said yes. That is how my grandfather went away with his boat. And before losing sight of her, he saw in the distance how the mermaid jumped into the water. Maybe went back to where she came from, or ran away. My grandfather has never seen anything like it in his life, but that one time was enough for him to know that mermaids do exist.